Elise here. Welcome back to our Sunday morning thoughts on Forever is the Soul. Today's video blog is about Chapter 3, which is titled Convergence. Andrew will be explaining his thoughts behind the subhead, Separation is an illusion created in the physical world by human beliefs. If you've missed the previous video blogs, you can go to Forever is the Soul's Facebook page, where you'll be able to watch the first two that cover Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. So also please like, share, and follow to make sure that you'll receive these video blogs in your newsfeed every Sunday morning. So thanks for coming along on our journey into forever. I hope you enjoy Chapter 3.
Happy Sunday. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3. It's entitled Convergence. Separation is an illusion created in the physical world by human beliefs. I'll say that again. Separation is an illusion created in the physical world by our human beliefs. That begs the question is, where did human beliefs come from? Circumstances, the circumstances of birth, the environment in which your soul chose to create the physical being that it was going to be, was a decision, if one chooses to believe, that the soul had a role in the manifestation of what it is that you are as a human being. So from the perspective of separation, we're seeing through a lens, and that lens is very biological in its orientation and how it works. I'm going to just touch on that a little bit because I think it's important. Certainly it was important for me. As I had mentioned in other videos, I wasn't really well when I wrote Forever is the Soul. And I really had to discipline myself to, in a sense, liberate myself from the tyranny imposed upon my whole being and my consciousness by the neurological problems that I was having. So I kind of had to separate. I had to kind of separate in order to get to a place within myself where I could go into what I call coherence. It's sort of a place within myself where I could recognize and acknowledge that physically I wasn't well, but I could sort of reach and stretch my consciousness into sort of almost right hemispheric function where I'm imagining and conceptualizing what it is to be human, what it is to be non-human, meaning spirit, and how do these two forces, we'll say, consolidate into a unified body, which is really a consolidation and convergence. It's two things coming together, like two rivers coming together. They converge, as streets converge, energy and matter converges. So in my case, in the journey of writing the book Forever, I kind of had to spend a fair amount of time almost denouncing my physical structure. It was kind of weird. In order to get out of myself, I had to sort of look at myself. One of the affirmations I used a lot, especially when my body was really intense, I'm not my brain and body, I am my consciousness. So I began to see that consciousness was a derivative of physiological interactivity, stuff that's going on in my brain and body. So as I kind of worked on the book, and in particular this chapter 3, and what is convergence to me, and where is this information coming from as I write, I recognize that it's coming out of my beliefs. It's coming out of the structures of beliefs that were built into my brain as I've moved through birth to now. So we're cumulative. By nature, we're an accumulative creature. We accumulate internal data. We accumulate things all around us, sometimes so bogged down by our things we're just reacting to them. But to understand that our senses are processed through the thalamus, which is part of the limbic system, and that we're composed of this biochemical reactor, if you will, the thalamus, which is sort of like a relay station that begins to sort out incoming data into into meaning, and it works sort of tandem with two components that exist within it. So in essence, the energy outside of self converges with the limbic system, the thalamus, and in this story I'll just say the amygdala and the hippocampus. They start to process reality based on past experience. So everything that we're experiencing, every word that you're comprehending, is compatible with the words that I'm speaking, because you have a reference point to every single word I'm speaking that's already programmed into your brain by your life experience from birth to now. So there's this interface or convergence taking place between what I'm saying and what you're hearing. Your limbic system is converting what I'm saying into rhythms and patterns, and you're interested or you're not interested, or whatever you're doing is all subject to your own belief structures. So I find it really interesting when I think about big picture stuff, more right hemispheric function. I know that I'm using my left brain interpreters, meaning the analytical aspects of my own ego, in order to reach into the right hemispheric function of imagination and creativity and intuition, if you will, to pull in energy information down that I know is being converted through my limbic system, therefore all my egocentristic values, beliefs, etc. So when I concentrated and relaxed, most importantly relaxed, into the writing of Forever, I spent a great deal of time. As I say, I'm not my brain and body, although I'm dependent on my brain and body in order to articulate anything in the form of writing. I'm going to a different place within myself. I can only see that, again, this is a belief, I can only see it as imagination. I'm imagining what is it like to be free of my brain and body, while still in some way maintaining a brain and body that's able to type into a computer words that I can conceptualize coming at me through the right hemisphere, or the heart, which is a sensory organ, and there's lots of evidence to support that now. If you look into Heart Math and Heart Math Institute in California, you can read a lot about the heart, and they're sensing it and studying it and quantitative testing it and so on and so on. It's a sensory organ, like our brain, functioning differently. I think it has something more to do with the right hemisphere, actually. The heart and the right hemisphere are more in coherence than the limbic system, which seems to empower more egocentricity, belief structures. The left brain is all concerned with sequence and patterning, and our language skills come from primarily our left hemisphere. So it's all about convergence. Convergence is to see beyond the self, to first of all recognize that there's something else out there. There's another energy field, there's a God, there's a universality, there's a, in the old days, in the 60s and 70s, they used to call it cache of records. Today we have the internet, we can just put something in and access pretty much whatever we want. Well, we can do it with our minds as well. And in some way, the whole internet is a manifestation of humanity's evolution. We're imagining how could we interface and communicate with each other on many different planes almost simultaneously. I can have 4 or 5 windows open on my computer at the same time. It's amazing. I can have at least 2 different windows open in my brain all the time. One is left hemispheric function, the other is right. And I believe that right attunes me to and takes me out of a feeling of separation, partly because I believe that the right hemisphere is tied to the heart. So as long as I'm relaxed and open, and why is it important to be relaxed and open? Because if you're not relaxed and open, the limbic system becomes primarily concerned with protectionism. So it's creating from past behaviors, path associations, behavioral patterns that are defensive. And we might not even know we're being defensive. All of a sudden we're standing in front of someone, not converging with them, not in coherence with them. We're just interacting with them, and we're posturing. And we do this all subconsciously, but it affects how we interface, our postural change, everything. We'll start to our facial, there's people out there that read body language and facial movement and all this kind of stuff in order to, in a sense, determine where a person's really coming from. So when I look at separation, first of all, I'm going to stay with separation for a minute if I can. Information seems to come fairly quickly, and I have to sometimes wonder what I'm talking about, but that's okay. We'll just go with it. Separation. If I see that there is a separation between me and my soul, well then there is a separation between me and my soul. It's all tied into whatever you believe. If you believe that a dark night on a street is a scary thing, then it's a scary thing. Our consciousness is derived out of the algorithmic response that consciousness evokes. So if you're thinking about negative things, or you're thinking about fearful things, you have a reason to do that because you have an algorithm in there somewhere that someone put into you, or you just learned through your own experience, that might be a little bit scary. So we're kind of living through the left hemisphere in a way where we're quite defensive all the time. We're always sort of on guard. It's almost like flight and flight comes out of the left hemisphere. Where the right hemisphere, going back to the right hemisphere a little bit, emphasizing creative, intuitive, it's bigger, it's much bigger in its scope, in its awareness, so that it can pacify. Through the right hemisphere, we can pacify the limbic system. So it's almost like open the heart, which is breathe, relax, open. In doing so, you're pacifying the limbic system. So in doing that, you're slowing down the processors that are trying to keep you confined, if you will, into your own belief structures, which creates a feeling of separation often. I believe this, you believe this, now we're in conflict, rather than going into coherence or converting to bring that energy into a solid, more unified body where the information can be exchanged. So separation is an illusion created in the physical world by our own beliefs. I don't believe I'm separate from you. You know, back over the years, I would watch the news and I would feel things happening in Syria or other countries, or, you know, bombs going off wherever. And if my heart was open, I would feel that. And it's like I would often say to Elise, the more you love, the more pain you feel. It's kind of crazy, which then takes you back to the limbic system. And the more you love, the more pain you feel. Well, the limbic system is going to want to protect you from what? Love. From being open, from being attuned to both the left and the right. So I use two words quite a bit. Convergence, to me, is it comes from above, you know. And again, that's a belief, and I get that. Okay, somehow in my early childhood, my initial associations with God concepts, any God concept, was it was out there somewhere. It was big. It was out in the universe, or it was, you know, a marble chair guy sitting down judging. I don't believe any of that stuff anymore, but I was influenced by the culture I was born into. And as I grew and as I built new constructs, which I think we all have the power to do, we can build constructs on top of constructs that then become the more predominant patterns that we utilize in order to navigate and function as human beings. So going back to belief structures and the illusion, and what I mean by illusion, specifically in the story, is that we have the ability to create any illusion we want. You know, we can see the world as bad, we can see the world as good. These are biased that are dependent upon the algorithmic response you have pertaining to whatever query you've made. Just thinking about, do I see the world bad or good? The response is a frequency, and that frequency moves through us and out of us into a bigger world, a world beyond ourselves, and that too, in many ways, can be an illusionary world. So I guess what I'm really saying in chapter 3 about convergence is, if you see convergence as being something that comes from above and moves through the physiological structure itself, and you begin to see coherence as the opening of the heart, and through that process the pacification of the limbic system, which means the quieting of the inner natter that goes on through left hemispheric function, self-talk, all that kind of stuff, then the right hemisphere becomes a little bit more empowered, and through the empowerment of the right hemisphere and that openness and that bigger picture stuff, the left brain is going to analyze that and think about that and feel that, and there's rewards in that, because through passivity you're open. Through restrictive thoughts, restrictive feelings, restrictive beliefs, you're going to close down, you're going to be in a defensive pattern. So I guess two words to think about, well, actually 4 words. We'll go with convergence, from above as it is below, coherence, left and right go into balance through the heart, pacification of the limbic system, and then separation. What creates separation? And what are illusions? just some things to think about as you wander through your Sunday. Well, thanks for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed this talk. And, we're all on this journey together. Have a good Sunday.